Hello, here we are once again with Mookie Tenembaum. We are exploring through these videos his disillusionist philosophy. We are trying to come to terms with the misalgic theory about human behavior as different ways of averting suffering. And as some of you already know, week after week, we are trying to apply some of these concepts to everyday life, to current situations and circumstances. We are in late September 2021 amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And today we are going to discuss a peculiar set of characters in Mookie's analysis, which are the players, are those individuals who are active within the illusions that disillusionism describes and analyzes. And we are going to try and focus on what's happening with the players' behavior during the pandemic and what can this teach us about our own behavior as non-players in the illusions. So this is the area we are going to try to explore today.
Well, first of all, we have to define players again, and let's begin. Players in the traditional disillusionist traditional definition would be people who work for one of the illusions. That's the state. In general, we're talking about the state or religion, and sometimes corporations and so forth. So this definition is not good enough. But this for this conversation. I would propose the definition of a player, a person who has access to and control and domain, or some kind of control over assets, mostly money, but also assets that are not his, and that are, I would say, part of the world, the public property. So, for example, I can go. The minister of finance, who is in charge of a certain amount of money for the budget. There is also, of course, the central bank who's running the money, and then you have ministries and vice ministers and directors and vice directors, and each one has a portion of the budget, and some of the spending is discretionary, some is not, of course, but some is discretionary. But even the regular employee, who has every day, who go to work every single day, the furniture they're working with is not theirs. Even the telephone calls are not paid by them. The electricity is not paid by them, and in many cases, even the uniforms are not theirs. They're owned by the government, not by them. So they have access. They run in different levels a certain degree of properties who are not theirs, and that is the definition I want to use for players, at least for this video. And then we can always go back to the old one if you want. This is the definition of players, and the interesting thing is how it happens, and this is how we will. That's where we're going to. How happens that these people behave towards this kind of property differently from their own? And when I mean differently, I don't mean stealing only, and of course sometimes stealing, but mostly, negligently spending it. Not with bad intention, just or small things. Yes, you go to eat, for a corporate dinner, you ask for a wine which is a little bit better than you should have asked for, and you can drink a better wine or get a present. This kind of stuff that, as I say, they're small, but if they would have happened on a personal basis, if the wine they are drinking more expensive is their father's or their friends, they wouldn't be doing it. So how do they do it? This is the issue of this video. What do you think, Flores?
You make me think about another definition we have used in the past that somehow correlates assets, resources, and money in particular to suffering, as if what we have, what we own, what we earn, for us is connected to some amount of suffering. And of course, this connection is not there. I can see how the behavior rapidly becomes very different. As you know, I'm not a player myself. I can tell our audience that. But when you were speaking, I remember that many times in my life, as a student at school, at the university, I would treat, for instance, furniture, desks, chairs at these public places in ways I never treated desks and furniture at my own place or at my friends' places. I would do with those tables, with those chairs, horrible stuff that I would never do to one of my own tables, or to your table or my father's table at your place or his place. So in a way, I can relate to this difference in behavior, even without being a finance minister with huge amounts of money at his disposal. Do you think this is the sense we are, the direction we should be going?
Well, perhaps, because when you just mentioned, I've seen 3 levels of property, how you deal with property. One is mine, the other one is thine, and the third one is his or hers, yes, or theirs, or nobody.
No one.
Why am I saying this? Because I may treat my furniture with, let's say, a degree from 1 to 10 of 8, avoiding recklessness. Yes, be a little bit, taking care, but I would be. But your furniture, probably, I would be even more careful, more than mine. Okay. Once, then if you go to the one that is public furniture, then much less. Now, so we have here 3 different, Florencio, 3 different forms of viewing how you deal with something that is not yours. But where I'm trying to go, and I agree with you that this is a very, I never thought about it. I myself treating public property, although I don't have really almost access to public property besides a bench in the park, which I treat very differently. I defer to it. Too much to the bench. In general, they are already broken and destroyed by somebody else who doesn't think like that. This is another issue. I think the main issue is, to me, is how is it that, and maybe that will explain your case too, but how is it that a person who probably is not a psychopath, what is the process? What is the mental process? The misalgic way. Misalgia, remember, is aversion of suffering. Yes. How does aversion of suffering lead, make these people work? The answer is, in most cases, there are several things that happen that makes them allows them to behave in that way with private property, and I don't mean the furniture. Yes, I mean money. Yes, I mean using public money for certain things. So when the first thing is the first obstacle of doing something is the law. But the law again is we're talking about outside of the view of the police or whoever is in charge of fiscalizing your work. So that's normally that is not important. What is important is there is 3 parts in us that are open to suffering. And let's remember the body, me, if somebody hit me, I suffer. A threat, that means my ability to see the future, and a threat that instills in me fear, then I suffer. And the third one is guilt. Yes, the moral conscience, something that I violated. Obviously, the first 2 are irrelevant. Only the third one is relevant to this case. So how is it that people take a first-class hotel instead of a 5-star hotel instead of a 2-star hotel that they were allowed to during their job, or during the pandemic even more? Yes, waste a lot of money, maybe fly first class, maybe bring a belly dancer. I don't know, whatever they have decided to do. What happened to the moral conscience? What happened to guilt? The answer is that normally these people don't work alone. People in public service, there is somebody else with them. And this is very important, because when I do something wrong, I will go to a third, to somebody else, yes, and I will tell them, listen, this happened, and they will say, no, you are right. You should not feel guilt about it. The other person is guilty. You would know, whatever. We know. I didn't even want to go to a real example because everybody knows what I'm talking about. And why does that person do it for me? Why that the other person exonerates me? Why that person allows me to continue doing what I was doing and not feeling guilt? The answer is because he's my friend. But most important is because I will do that for him. Next time he will come to me and say, hey, what about this? So, and if it's more than two people, well, there is a whole group. It's always an organization. Yes, you can always say that the criminal organization is a lot of people who are ready to exonerate to exonerate each other. So this is what you have. This is how it works with the moral conscience. But then there are other things. Yes, there is empathy. I mean, you're taking money, and you have to think about the people. Maybe the guy who owns a kiosk, who paid his taxes, and you are spending his money. There is no such a guy. What do you mean? There is no such a guy.
I was thinking as you spoke about this frequent. It's almost an idiom, I would say. A victimless crime, right? These are victimless crimes. All of these examples, there is not a single person I could point at as being the victim here. And in a way, this exonerates us. In a way, this allows less guilt, right? Less responsibility.
Yes, the exoneration from another person helps you, but then the question is, what is the victim? Now, wait, and this is very important. The definition, the social definition of victim in a crime, and even, of course, the legal one, is the person to whom a certain damage was done to. So, of course, if a woman is being raped, she's a victim. There's no doubt. If somebody come to you and steal money with a gun, or take your money from your wallet and you discover it, of course, he or she is a victim. But, and here comes the disillusionism definition of victim. Victim is only a person who knows, who suffers from a certain fact, from something that happened, that were done to them by a third party. In this case, you. So there is no victim. There is no victim. They tell you there is no victim. Of course, you say yes. Of course, there is a victim. What do you mean there's no victim? You have here the guy who pays taxes. Who? What's his name? It's anonymity by delusion. Now, it's very important to understand the question of anonymity here. What happened, Florencio? Because when we went from the villages to the cities, the way moral rules were enforced changed totally. It went from shame to guilt, from anonymity to anonymity. That means to be known. Imagine you find $200 in the street. Okay, you are in Buenos Aires. It's nobody's money. Of course, it's somebody's money, but it's nobody's money. Imagine the same thing in a little village. You know somebody. I mean, you even know who can have the $200. Who is the one whose $200 is? You can even probably name the name of his children. So you will go and give the money back, not because it's your moral duty. It wasn't needed because of shame. Once anonymity kicked in, the only thing that keeps people straight, besides the threat of violence, the threat of enforcement, the only two are empathy and moral conscience. Moral conscience, I told you, is solved by your friends. Then you end up with empathy. Empathy to whom?
But there's no one on the other side, right?
Exactly.
Before we run out of time, there's something we've discussed off the record, and I want to call your attention to it because I think it's an important matter. We've been discussing players who are people who are very used to this situation of somehow handling money that they are not accountable for, money that it's not theirs, that is not connected to any particular suffering. But during the pandemic, many of us, not being players, we found ourselves in this situation because public money, as one would say, was gifted in a way, or lent in a way, to citizens in general in some countries, to some elements in the population in others, to some types of small business holders. So there's been a lot along these last 2 years, I'd say, a lot of situations in which non-players have been exposed to this peculiar situation we've been discussing, of having unaccountable money of some sort to dispose of. What's happening there? What will happen with that, in your opinion?
Well, the first thing is when people got the furlough, that's America. I think the British, and Americans got the check. The first time they got the check, it was exceptional. It was unique. The second time they got the check, it was a coincidence. And as disillusionism says, this is the rule of three. And the third time, it was already a tradition. That means that is already theirs. They own it. So that's one part. The second part is the way they wasted that money, because it didn't come from their work. They didn't associate that money from getting up early in the morning on a Monday morning to go to an office. And again, going to an office was part of it. So there is a dissociation between the money and their effort. And then there is less respect. It's anonymous from them. When you're getting your salary, yes, you know yourself. You know how much you have to work hard for that. Even if your work is not sanctioned, it doesn't matter which work we're talking about. Yes? You had to work. If somebody now you are just for staying home because you're a hero, because now we have heroes, people who stay home. You remember? It's already gone now, but they were heroes. You are a hero every time you stay at home. So heroes get paid, of course. I am surprised they never got a medal together with a check for staying home. Now you have to ask these people to go back to work. And I would say, wait, the pandemic is not over. We still are going. But let's say at some point it will be over. And what will happen? The answer is it's going to be very, very hard, especially because part of the sleepwalking was going to work, was getting up in the morning, taking the bus, doing the commute, which was probably one of the worst parts of going to work, sitting in his office, going back next day, and again and again and again and again and again and again and again. This is it. That was it was a sleepwalk. Now everything was broken. Now you don't go to work. Now you for a while you didn't get money for the work you were not doing, and you were a hero because you stay home, and your pajamas feel less and less comfortable because you're eating yourself to death. So all this is changing. How do you go back without going back? Because if people will not go back to the offices, it's going to be very problematic for people to have the new way of working, and that the money and everything will be, the world will be, how to say, round again. Everything without, because you need, you remember I was told to sleepwalk, you need a sidewalk that is perfect.
Wow.
And this is full of pieces. But again, I don't know what will happen. Yes, I'm just venturing a view. But if we know, because people will try to avert suffering, and sleepwalk is addictive, we'll have a problem. Don't forget also, the longer you sleepwalk, the stronger that sleepwalk has an attraction over you. The harder is like a rocket out of Earth. The harder it is to launch it to space.
I'm thinking we already know, at least partially, that this type of money that somehow was thrown at people was spent in ways that we already know are very different from the ways in which people spend the money they have to earn, in which they spend the money, as you said, that they can connect suffering to. So this part of the puzzle, I think it's already taking shape. We've seen distortions in the way we allocate resources. Since these resources were not the result of our efforts and our suffering, what will happen in the near future? It's always a big question in these videos, in this analysis, because as you say, it's hard to imagine the old sleepwalking, the old sink of sleepwalkings reshaping itself after all these alterations, after all these modifications. I guess we shall see.
No, and take into account, Florencio, that the spending habits changed. Not only because we're staying at home and we spend differently, because the money that came, we treated it with less, as an anonymous gift. Yes, I think the next time, I think we will ask the governments to give everybody a birthday present of money. Maybe that will help.
We're out of time. Thank you very much. We'll go back to this and other subjects, I'm sure, in future videos. But it's been great.
Of course.
See you.
See you.
If you enjoyed the video, please like it, comment and subscribe.